As we come to a close on this series, How Did America Get Broken? It's fairly obvious that America is broken and that there are many things that need to happen to fix it. The question is, will Americans and American politicians and the media and social media do that? But there's one more piece of the puzzle. But I personally believe that it was important to deliver this in this manner. So, the final thing we need to look at is our education system. In America, we don't teach our children and our adults the basics that they need to know to survive in America. So, let's get into this.
Like, subscribe, and comment to the Doctor of Disaster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doctor of Disaster. I am your host, the Doctor of Disaster, Dr. Mark Warnick. I am considered a subject matter expert in public health emergency management, big word, and public safety by not one, but two different universities. So let's get into this today. Our education system is broken and it's leading to a portion of America being broken. Does that make sense? Let's get into this a little deeper. So, we have teachers, and I'm a university professor, adjunct professor, I should say, but we see in the education system that things are being taken out, things are being put in, and biases are being entered into the classroom. And this is not acceptable. We need to teach our students unbiased material and allow them to make their own decisions. And that's what I do in my classes. You can ask any of my students. What I do is I point them in a direction and I tell them, do a paper or do a video or do a PowerPoint. And I don't criticize them on what direction they go so long as they can prove it with sources. So it's not just basically their opinion, it's the opinion of them and many others. In our American education system, there is, once again, a lot of pushing students to think the way the instructor thinks. And in my opinion, that's horrible. We don't need to indoctrinate students. We need students to be logical thinkers. And that is the problem. While we talk about critical thinking, we also fail to recognize that logical thinking is a key factor in keeping America viable. If we want to promote illegal immigration, even though many of those people brought in, and I'm not saying everyone, but many are brought in and they're human trafficked simply for the fact of sex or labor, then is it logical to say, as an example, that it's okay that that happens? What some people tend to do is say, oh, Well, we need illegal immigration. They need the help to get out of the situation they're in. However, when people illegally immigrate, 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted. Now, let's go back even more. Did you know that 3 out of 10 children are sexually assaulted during illegal immigration by their coyotes, by those people bringing them in? And it doesn't matter whether that immigration is from Mexico, India, Pakistan, or any other country. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted, and 3 in 10 children. So let's get into this logical thinking. If we teach people, if we teach students to think logically, then they should be able to decipher where there's problems and where there's not. Unfortunately, what we've become in many instances is a nation of emotions rather than a nation of facts and logical thinking. So until we start thinking logically again, then we are going to have issues. The other thing that, especially in the grade schools and high schools, that is not being taught that used to be taught is common courtesy. Why is that important to America being broken? Well, if we can't talk and discuss and be courteous with each other, how can we fix the other problems? Seriously, how are we going to fix those problems? So the school systems are failing, schooling is failing, and not everyone, not all of it, but they are failing to teach common courtesy, they're failing to teach logical thinking. And another thing that the school systems are doing that is detrimental is removing books because they have 1 or 2 words that they don't agree with, or because they don't promote a certain point of view. And this is problematic in itself. One, we can't change the past. And two, those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it. And that's George Santayana. And I think I've used him multiple times. That's one of my favorite sayings. Besides, if you aren't the lead horse, the view is always the same. But let's get back to this. When we start looking at literature and films and various other things, while they may not meet the standard of today's time, they are classics. And as an example, Mark Twain, one of the greatest writers ever. Yet, because in those days it was allowable to use, as an example, the N word, many schools have taken Mark Twain off the shelf. At the same time, African Americans, some, use that word to talk to each other. So, one, it's kind of a double standard. And two, the issue is it is from a different time. So, why are we curtailing how literature was then? How can we see the progression of changes if we don't allow those works of art to be seen? As I close this video, let's think about politicians, how they are partisan in such a manner that it technically tears our country apart. They are not doing the right thing. What they are doing is they are causing more divisiveness. We also need to consider number two, how politicians not listening to the American people, the needs and wants of the American people, is drawing ire, and then Americans become upset with their elected officials, and there's more violence, and there's more this, and there's more that. we need to get out of that cycle. Number 3, media and social media, with them being biased and with them only allowing certain content, essentially preventing freedom of speech. That is tearing at the fabric of America. And then number 4, the education system. When we indoctrinate students and teach them to think a certain way rather than giving them the information and letting them figure it out on their own. And when we don't teach them logical thinking or common courtesy, this is what we get. Another thing that I'd like to bring up, and it's not worth doing a whole section of the series on, is the severe swing we've been going through every time someone new is elected. When President Trump came in, there was a huge swing. We're going to do this, and this. Okay. Joe Biden comes in, bam, exactly the opposite. The American people are not yo-yos, and we can't be treated like yo-yos. And if you treat us like yo-yos and our laws like yo-yos, then it's going to create discord. So, this completes this series. I apologize that it has taken me a while to get through this. However, between the weather and all of the research I had to put into it, this has been perhaps one of the most labor-intensive video series I've done. So remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and help a fella out. Until next time, see ya. Without any further ado, I'd like to remind you to like, subscribe, and comment. This helps me with the YouTube algorithm, and quite frankly, this information needs to get out.
The Doctor of Disaster is a wholly owned subsidiary of Warnick & Associates Incorporated.